I hit this screen. Okay, there's that. So here, present. All right, is that big on your guys' screen? All right. So thank you all for coming. My name is Jake, and all of you know me, so I don't need to do too much of an introduction. And today we're going to be talking about conscious experience, awareness and attention, and I'm going to um, put an overlay of yin-yang theory on top of that. So this model of awareness and attention is found in The Mind Illuminated, which is a book on meditation, taking a lot of Buddhist theories as well as uh, neuroscience. Oh, and I got things in my way so I can't see my screen. Let me shrink that a little bit. There we go. So I want to present to your awareness what I'm going to be, or present to your bring to your attention what I'm going to be going over in this presentation. So you can keep that in your awareness as we go on. First, I'm going to go over awareness and attention. What are they? What are we talking about? Then I'm going to go over what some qualities of yin are and qualities of yang are. And then I'm going to apply awareness and attention to those qualities of yin and yang. After that, we're going to go over some yin-yang theory basics and then apply the model of awareness and attention as yin and yang to the overall yin-yang theory. After that, I'm going to do a guided meditation to really sort of put into actuality what I'm trying to point at with all of my talking, so you guys can get a better feel of what I'm trying to share and how practical it is. And that is going to be the bulk of my goal. But after that, I am going to extend this model to the overall mind model system, which is in the later chapters of The Mind Illuminated. So my goals, as I just mentioned, I want to show you how to use yin and yang concepts to better differentiate between awareness and attention. So you're going to get a better experience of the conscious experience of awareness and the conscious experience of attention and be able to differentiate them using yin and yang. The secondary goals I have is to show you how to use this model to increase the overall conscious power of the mind model or the mind system, as well as how to use it to work a little bit more skillfully with ADD. Then my other secondary goal is just extending this model further into the mind model system. So, attention and peripheral awareness. This is one of the first models introduced in The Mind Illuminated, and it is very foundational. When I first came across The Mind Illuminated, I was blown away by really everything that's presented in it. But just the differentiation stated explicitly between attention and awareness is very practical and has helped me in, I can't even describe the ways that it's helped me. But it's a differentiation that is commonly ignored by both practitioners and teachers alike. Commonly, those terms are used interchangeably. You'll be doing a guided meditation, and the guide will say, place your attention here, place your awareness here. And those are more or less considered the same command. But being able to differentiate and use them in different ways makes mindfulness practice a lot more easier and productive. Now, everything I'm going to be talking about is models, and models are things that oversimplify everything. We live in a very complex reality, so models are all inherently wrong in certain ways, but some are very useful if you can adapt them to your experience. So what is attention? I took these definitions directly from the glossary of the Mind Illuminated. So attention is the cognitive ability to select and analyze specific information and ignore other information arising from a vast field of internal and external stimuli. Attention is one of two forms of conscious awareness. Peripheral awareness is the second. Now, that's important there. Conscious awareness, that is the big container of conscious experience. And then within that container, you have attention and peripheral awareness. Those two together form conscious awareness. There's that division right there of the greater picture of conscious awareness. We pay attention to some things while simultaneously being aware of, but not attending to, others. Attention isolates some small part of the field of conscious awareness from the rest so that it can be identified, interpreted, labeled, categorized, and its significance evaluated. The function of attention is discernment, analysis, and discrimination. So a lot of those verbs in there are very active, very actiony. And you can think of attention as what you're attending to. And then peripheral awareness is everything else that you are conscious of, consciously aware of. Peripheral awareness, a general, emphasis on general, cognizance of sensory information, mental objects like thoughts, memories, and feelings, and the overall state and activity of the mind. Any or all of these may be present in peripheral awareness simultaneously. So attention has a lot more processing involved, so things can get much more specific. With peripheral awareness, there's a general cognizance, a general awareness of it. And attention is very specific, but peripheral awareness, much more general, which is why I highlighted any or all of these may be present in peripheral awareness simultaneously. Now, throughout this talk, when I say awareness, you can generally assume I'm talking about peripheral awareness, but within peripheral awareness, there are more subcategories. There are extrospective awareness, introspective awareness, and metacognitive introspective awareness. Extrospective awareness, extrospective, outside, it's typically anything that you experience and what you perceive to be outside of the body. Whereas introspective awareness, introspective, is awareness of things that are going on in what you perceive to be internally. And then metacognitive introspective awareness is a more subtle form of introspective awareness. It's an awareness of the mind itself, where the mind stands back and is able to observe its own state and its activities. Now, for the sake of completion, there are also non-conscious awareness, which for the bulk of this presentation, I am not going to be talking about, but I just wanted to bring that to your awareness. So I took this table directly from the Mind Illuminated, and it has a chart that go over not categories, qualities of peripheral awareness as well as attention. And when I was reading TMI on one of my later read-throughs, I noticed how they stand these two columns kind of as polarity, complete opposites. So for peripheral awareness, it's holistic, relational, contextual, whereas attention isolates and analyzes. Peripheral awareness filters all incoming information. Attention selects information from awareness. Peripheral awareness acts as a watchful alert system. Attention hones in on objects. Peripheral awareness, less processing, quicker response. Attention, more processing, slower response. Peripheral awareness, less personal, more objective. Attention, more self-centered. Now, this last part doesn't seem to be quite as in opposition to the other one, but I'll get to that. Peripheral awareness can be introspective and extrospective, and attention can be introspective or extrospective. So I still view those as polar opposites in the sense that the word and versus or, one is more inclusive and the other is more isolative. Now, it's also worth mentioning that attention can be consciously directed. Awareness is more passive and it can be trained. So attention can be consciously directed. Awareness is passive, but it can be trained. Now, yin and yang qualities. So yin and yang are themselves essentially polarity, one versus the other, white versus black, hot versus cold, slow versus quick. It's just different ways of expressing polar opposites. So I took a couple of qualities that are notably yin, as well as some qualities that are notably yang. The list is non-exhaustive. There are as many yin qualities and yang qualities as there are adjectives in the dictionary. But for the sake of this presentation, yin is receptive, its opposite. Yang is active. Yin is inclusive. Yang is exclusive, isolative. Yin is background. Yang is foreground. Yin is holistic. Yang is singular. Yin is nurturing. Yang is consuming. Yin is stillness. Yang is movement. Now, again, we're talking about polar opposites. We talked about it here, and we talked about it with awareness and attention. What I'm hoping to provide by explaining all of this is that you're able to use the concept of yin and the concept of yang to more easily differentiate between awareness and attention. So if we go through these one by one to apply them to awareness and attention, yin is receptive, yang is active. Everything that comes into conscious experience first arrives in awareness. It is receiving all of that information, but it's doing so passively. Yang, attention, is active. Attention then selects a piece of that information from the whole and actively processes it. So awareness is yin, it's receptive. Yang is active, and it does all the processing, or a lot of the conscious processing, I should say. Yin is exclusive, yang is exclusive or isolative. Yin awareness, again, includes everything within conscious experience. So yin awareness, inclusive. Then attention, yang attention, isolates and excludes everything else from its processing, leaves it in peripheral awareness to in order to function. So it selects, it's isolative. Yin awareness is very inclusive. Everything first arrives in awareness. And if you're not completely following me right now, when I do this guided meditation, I'm going to point more directly at this, but just try to keep these in the back of your mind as we're going through this. So yin is background, yang is foreground. You can think of attention as the focus. Well, it is. It's the focus of whatever you are attending to. It's in the foreground. Then around attention is everything else of which you are conscious. It's the background. You're not attending to it, but it's still there in the periphery, in the background. Yin is background, yang is foreground. Yin, holistic, yang is singular. So I've mentioned this, and it's just a very important thing. Yin awareness contains everything within conscious experience. But so everything comes into consciousness first through awareness, and it contains the big picture. How does this relate to everything? But yang, attention, isolates, singular, takes one section of what's presented in awareness, and then isolates it singularly and analyzes it further. Yin is nurturing, yang is consuming. So yin awareness provides all of the information within conscious experience. So that is very nurturing because it provides it. Yang is consuming because typically, particularly in modern world, we overutilize attention. We overutilize the conscious resources of the mind system. Attention oftentimes will consume all of those resources for its analyzing, and then your peripheral awareness collapses. I'm sure all of you have had times where you're so absorbed in anything that it is that you're doing that you're not really aware of anything that's happening right next to you. The system's resources have been consumed by attention, and then your awareness just collapses. It's not able to nurture that holistic perspective. Yin is stillness, yang is movement. Now, yin awareness feels more subjectively still. There's a lot less processing going on in awareness. It is still very powerful. A lot of information is received through awareness alone. But because there's less processing involved, it feels much less active. It feels still. Attention, on the other hand, attention is going to move around. It moves to focus on one thing, it moves to focus on another thing, and it moves all around. And because of that, we are also able to consciously direct it. I want to attend to this. I want to attend to that. It can be consciously directed. However, as I'm sure all of you have experienced in some point of your life, what you want to attend to is not always what ends up being attended to. Attention can still move around without conscious direction. It's just a property of yang, that movement. And we're going to get into how we can stabilize that movement in just a little bit. But in terms of practical application of this yin awareness, stillness, yang attention movement, the still qualities in whatever you experience really can point you towards cultivating awareness. If you lean into the more still qualities of your experience, you can help it to stabilize and build your awareness just by leaning into what you subjectively feel is the more still qualities of conscious experience. And I just wanted to, but now we've gone through all of the yin and yang qualities that I wanted to apply to peripheral awareness and attention. So you can see on both of these charts, one is yin, peripheral awareness with everything that's going on there, and attention is yang. So again, the goal of this is to be able to, instead of asking yourself during any mindfulness practice that you have, am I using awareness or am I using attention? To be able to use, is this more yin? Is this more still? Or is this more yang? Is there more activity? To help to better differentiate the faculties of peripheral awareness and peripheral attention. But both of those are still just a subdivision of the greater conscious awareness. The key takeaways that I want you guys to have. Yin is passive, yang is more active. Peripheral awareness feels more passive subjectively. Yang attention feels more active. Now, if the activities of your mind feel like they're more active, that means that you're using attention. But if your activities of the mind feel more passive, there's just a knowing quality. You don't have to analyze anything. There's just a knowing that's involved without having to attend to it. That's passive. That's yin. That's awareness. Now, if you ever feel like you're over-efforting in anything you're doing, mindfulness practice, daily activities, you can be pretty sure that you are overusing attention. Overusing. Oh no, there goes my screen. Hi, Sebastian. Okay, how do I get back to my screen? Okay, do you guys see the PowerPoint again? I actually turned you guys all off so I could see it. So if I'm not hearing anything, I assume I'm good.
You're good.
Cool. So again, if you feel like you're over-efforting, that means you're overusing attention. And to work with that, you want to utilize more awareness. Ideally, we just want them working in their optimal interaction. We want awareness, which is more holistic and provides everything to attention to analyze, to not provide so much to attention to analyze. We want more information coming from awareness so that attention doesn't feel compelled to need to move around and analyze everything. We want them working in that optimal interaction. We want yin and yang to be working in harmony. So again, active is yang, that's attention. Passive is yin, that's peripheral awareness. Peripheral awareness is inclusive, attention isolates. I can't stress this enough, but everything that you ever have in attention first rose in awareness, and awareness provides that holistic context. How does this fit into the big picture? Attention selects from awareness and isolates and analyzes the content from awareness that has been flagged as more important for more processing. So again, things arise passively in awareness. There is a conscious experience that something has happened, and then attention actively isolates and analyzes contents from awareness. But all of these, both of these, are just functions of conscious awareness, the greater container. Now that brings me to yin-yang theory and how we can apply this. And I am going to try to bring up you guys. I can no longer see your guys' faces, and I kind of want to see it for this. Eric, do you know how I get people coming back up?
I have a film strip on my right that shows everybody. If it just shows you, I don't know if you can, if there's a pull down menu to change uh just you in the
Oh,
view.
can you guys see that?
Yeah, we still have the yin yang theory graphic.
Okay, I can't figure it out. Moving on. So, yin-yang theory. Find the dot. It's a whole lot of undifferentiated emptiness, an empty void. There are no discernible qualities here. Unless you need to clean your screen, you're not going to be able to see a whole lot of anything. It's completely undifferentiated, void of anything, completely empty. Let's try this a different way. Find the dot. It's a different screen, still can't find the dot. Whole lot of empty, undifferentiated void. Very similar to what we just saw. There's no discernible qualities. You can't identify anything. So we have what appears to be one void, devoid of any meaning, no discernible qualities, and what appears to be another void, no discernible qualities, no empty of any meaning. But they both have the same qualities. One is white, one is dark. They are polar opposites of each other, both with the same qualities. Now, when we combine both of those both of those spaces of empty void, you can find the dots, and you get the polarity of the yin-yang. You are able to, because of the polar opposite qualities of these two empty spaces, find a little bit of meaning by comparing one to the other. One gives meaning to the other. On their own, each individually, seemingly independent, there's nothingness. But when they are combined together, you're able to differentiate. You're able to see that dot. The important principles of yin-yang theory that we're going to go over and apply to the model of attention and awareness as a yin-yang: non-duality, interdependence, dynamic balance and interconsumption, or I can see that as impermanence, yin anchoring yang, and then infinite divisibility. Infinite divisibility I'm going to get to a little bit later, but I just wanted to point out what that is so you can keep that in mind. Anytime you create a new division, you can create a polarity within that division. If you're looking at just the yin portion of something, within that yin portion, there is the yinnest of the yin and the yangest of the yin. And anytime you make that division, it creates that same spectrum. So there's infinite ways of dividing things and addressing them as yin and yang. And yin yang is actually considered a universal model. You can literally apply it to anything. And here I'm going to be applying it a little bit to the universe itself. So the non-duality of yin yang, non-dual, not two. They cannot exist separately. There's no self-existent nature. They can only exist together. And that's because they're the polarity of only one thing. 1 plus 1/2 equals 1. They're just two sides of the same empty coin. And as I've mentioned earlier, within conscious awareness, there's the polar division of attention and peripheral awareness. These are just the poles of conscious awareness itself. You wouldn't be able to know what attention was unless you knew what the qualities of peripheral awareness were. You wouldn't be able to know what peripheral awareness was if everything was just in peripheral awareness unless you knew what attention was. Their meaning and what they're not gives meaning to the other. This leads me to an interpretation from Tao Te Ching, chapter 42, where it says, 1 gives birth to 2, 2 gives birth to 3, 3 gives birth to 10,000 things. So my interpretation of that is 1, a single system, something non-dual, gives birth to 2, the yin-yang polarity. 2 gives birth to 3, you have yin, yang, and the spectrum of everything in between. And 3 gives birth to 10,000, or all things. Within a spectrum, everything can be placed on the spectrum. The spectrum itself is infinite, so anything can be placed within a spectrum. And back when the Tao Te Ching was written, 10,000 was considered a very large, unfathomable number. So in my opinion, was used hyperbolically to indicate all things. The next portion of yin-yang theory I want to talk about is dynamic balance and interconsumption. So things are not created or destroyed. And we're talking with attention and awareness as they're both just parts of the greater picture of conscious awareness. So within conscious awareness, if you're using attention, that's going to consume resources, conscious resources away from peripheral awareness. And if you are using more awareness, that's going to consume resources away from attention. So if you increase one, the other one shifts. You increase the other, it goes like that. It's just balancing of scales. They're dynamically balanced, and the way that it gets there is it's taking something from one side of the scale and putting it onto the other. When you're using more attention, awareness will collapse. If you're absorbed in whatever you're attending to, you're not going to be aware of other things going on. If you're more aware of everything going on, you're going to have less conscious resources to really analyze everything because the resources are a little bit more spread out. So to phrase this another way, yin turns into yang as yang consumes yin, and yang turns into yin as yin consumes yang. To directly apply that to the model of awareness and attention, everything arises in awareness before becoming an object of attention. Things arise first in yin awareness. It's a yin object, an object of awareness. Then attention selects that and analyzes it. What was once yin then becomes a yang object with attention for analyzation. Yang is consuming that yin. Now, if awareness flags an object that's important enough for analysis, then the awareness itself can collapse, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And that is a noticeable process of yang rapidly consuming yin. When you're so absorbed in what attention is doing that you're just not aware of really anything else going on, the yang has consumed the yin. Now, the other way, yin consuming yang, After you release an object from attention, then it returns to your awareness. Yang, attention, is released and it becomes an object of awareness. Now, I'm going to try to point to this when I go through the guided meditation. But during that transition, after something has been in attention and then returns to peripheral awareness, it still retains a little bit of that yang quality. There's a greater knowing that is still taking place as it's in awareness because the yin is gradually consuming that yang. Now, to put this into some practical application and how we can use this model of interconsumption and yin and yang as attention and awareness to increase conscious power. If you increase yang, it's going to consume the yin. If you increase yin, it's going to consume the yang. The only way you can build them both together is to build them both together. You need to work on both at the same time. The way we do this in our mindfulness practice is we practice sustaining close attention while still keeping a strong peripheral awareness. You're training the entire muscle. For those of you who are in my Chinese medicine classes, you can think of this as you can't tonify yin without at least tonifying yang a little bit. You can't tonify yang without at least tonifying yin a little bit. Again, one reduces the other, so you need to lean into both. The trouble is that most people don't have strong peripheral awareness or even the ability to differentiate between what is awareness and what is attention. Again, but a lot of people, when they use awareness and attention, are using those words synonymously. But when you're able to recognize that peripheral awareness has yin qualities and attention has yang qualities, you can use that as a shortcut to better differentiate what is going on in your conscious experience, and then use that to leverage your conscious experience to create more conscious power for your system. Now, attention and awareness are used to actually train each other. In the early stages of TMI, well, in TMI in general, it's generally assumed that the average person is overutilizing attention. So in the earlier stages of the mind illuminated, we're using attention to train awareness. Again, yin awareness is passive. Yang attention is active. So, and it can be, yang attention can also be under conscious control. So because it is more active, because we can consciously use it, consciously direct it, we use that to train the passive peripheral awareness. Some methods that we use to do that is just appreciating the waking up to knowing that you were distracted, the aha moment. Aha, I'm not doing what I was intending to do. Awareness alerted you to that. Then you attend to that joy that you have become aware of it, and that attention on the positive feedback, this is what I wanted to do, I am aware of that, reinforces the awareness so that it becomes more likely to happen in the future. You're using attention to train awareness. Similar thing is done with checking in. Checking in means that when you're meditating, you check in every now and again. You bring your attention to observe everything that's going on in awareness. Your attention is checking in. You're attending to what is going on in awareness before you go back to focusing on your object while keeping strong peripheral awareness. Then we also use labeling. When something comes up, we label it with attention, and that labeling will make it easier for awareness to flag more passively in the future. So in a general sense, attention is utilized intentionally to program awareness. Again, attention can be consciously directed. But once awareness has been trained, you can get skills to manifest without any attentional effort. It's just a passive, reflexive activity of the mind once awareness has become strong enough. I like to use driving as an example. I know for many of you, myself included, it was nearly a lifetime ago when I was first learning to drive. But when I was first learning to drive, I was very attentive. I didn't know what I was doing. I was constantly overutilizing attention to make sure that I was a safe driver. Um, all of that attention trained awareness to be able to execute driving more effectively. Now, if I'm going to the store, I'm peripherally aware that I'm driving, but I can attend to other things. I can think about what I'm going to do in my day. I can plan on what I'm going to get from the grocery store. My attention is elsewhere, but my conscious experience, I am peripherally aware that I am driving. I get to the store. Peripheral awareness is a very general knowing. I get to the store. I knew that I know that I had been driving, but a lot of the specifics of what I did during my drive, I couldn't tell you because it was just done passively in awareness. Conversely, we also use awareness to train stable attention. Awareness is the sentry, the watchful alert system. Once awareness has been cultivated and trained enough, it notices distractions much more quickly and corrects for them on its own. You don't need to attend to it. Don't need to know, here's a distraction. Excuse me. What am I going to do? Awareness just automatically is able to present passively what needs to be done after it's been cultivated. So I really want to emphasize that things that happen in awareness feels more passive. So awareness is more passive in training stable attention. It alerts you once it becomes aware passively that attention isn't doing what you intended it for it to do. And things in attention feel more active, yang, attention, yang, active. And the reason for that subjective feeling is peripheral awareness, a lot less processing. Peripheral awareness, there's just a knowing quality, but it's very passive because there's not a lot of processing involved. Attention, active, feels more active because there's more processing. Now, it's said in yin yang theory that yin is actually what anchors yang. Stillness is a quality of yin. Movement is a quality of yang. And because of that, stillness, yin, is said to anchor yang. If it's unanchored, it can go wildly. Which brings me to ADD and how to apply this yin yang model of awareness and attention to ADD. ADD is typically considered attention deficit disorder, but it's more practical and more accurate to describe it as an awareness deficit disorder. People with ADD, their attention's working just fine. It's just moving around. They're attending to things over here. They're attending to things over there. Oh, look, a squirrel. I'm attending to that. Attention is working just fine, but it's unanchored. It moves about, moves about. And with awareness, it's used to actually stabilize the attention. So if all of your resources, if you have ADD, all of your resources or most of your resources are going to be utilized by that processing of attention. And because there's not enough holistic peripheral awareness to feed you information of what is going on in your periphery, awareness flags things inappropriately. It's not entirely sure what this object is. I'm going to flag that for greater analysis. But if you're able to stabilize your attention, build your attention, there is information that's going to be coming into you, into your conscious experience, so that attention doesn't feel compelled to attend to things over here, attend to things over there, to receive necessary information. The system is just going to work more harmoniously. And because of that, attention will be able to stabilize where you direct it because it's not compelled to move around. Oh, and this last little note I have down here, with ADD, if someone takes enough interest in, with ADD takes enough interest in whatever it is that they're doing, their attention will work just fine. It can be stable because the system believes that this is the most important thing to attend to. You take joy in whatever it is that you're doing, your system gets that feedback that this is what I want my attention on. However, with mindfulness practices and training the mind, we're typically not necessarily doing something that is, I guess a word would be as entertaining as something else. So attention can move around rapidly like that. Visually, I spent a little bit of time coming up with this picture in AI and I couldn't get it perfect, but this works. Imagine that with an excess of attention and a deficit of awareness, awareness isn't providing any context to you. You only have what you're attending to. If you were in a dark forest on a dark night, only light that's around you is the flashlight. You can think of the flashlight as attention, and everything that is around attention is peripheral awareness. Now, it's dark. You don't have that awareness. So you hear a crack over there. You need to move your attention, move your flashlight to investigate that, to analyze that. But then there's another crack over there, and it just keeps going on and on. Where am I going? I can't see the path. I don't know when I'm going to be taking a turn. You're constantly scanning with attention because awareness isn't providing enough information. Conversely, if you were doing that in the daylight and your attentional flashlight was shining on certain things, you're passively receiving information from awareness, passive, yin, awareness. You're receiving that information. So as you're walking and you're investigating that owl, you already know in awareness that that crack that you heard over in the over behind the tree is just that cute little bunny playing around. You don't need to attend to it because you already passively have that information from peripheral awareness. Awareness, yin, passive, holistic content, yin. I don't think I need to go over that. And this brings me to the guided meditation. I do want to pause here. Things will get a little bit more clear after I go through this meditation, but does anybody have any questions for me so far that are pressing before I go into the meditation? Yay? Nay? Okay, we'll jump right into it. So for this meditation, in TMI, we typically use breath sensations as our primary object. But for this, it's going to be easier if I use the visual fields. The mechanics of the visual fields can be seen as a microcosm of the mechanics of the mind system as a whole. You can learn a lot about the mind by simply investigating how your vision operates. And we're going to be working in this meditation more directly with extrospective awareness than introspective awareness or metacognitive introspective awareness. But this is just so you can get a feel of the mechanics between attention and awareness. So we are going to be using the visual field. This meditation would go a little bit easier for all of you if you're not just looking at a computer screen against the wall, but had more of a visual space to work with. So turn yourself into your room, or if you have a window, go ahead and look out the window, just so you have a much wider space of a visual field. Now, in the Mind Illuminated, we go through, before every meditation, we go through the 6-step preparation. The 6-step preparation is just, what are we going to do in this sit? What is our descending order of intentions? It provides the framework of the sit. So I'm going to modify a lot of TMI framework for this meditation. Step 1 is motivation. Why is it that you practice? Why do you do this? Why do you have a mindfulness practice? Is it to relax? Is it to work more effectively with your emotions? Is it to increase the functionality of the mind system? Is it for spiritual purposes? Is it to awaken? Why are we doing this? Allow yourself to feel what it would be like if you were to achieve that goal. How does that feel in your body? How good does that feel? All of the effort that you've put into your practice finally pays off. How would that feel? Can you touch it? If you can feel that, take joy in knowing that doing your meditative practice is going to bring you ever closer to that goal. Now, we just actively attended to that feeling. We're going to go ahead and move our attention actively and leave that feeling in yin awareness. It just stays there passively. Nothing you need to do, but you're conscious of it. Now move your attention to step 2. Step 2 are the goals of this sit. What do we intend to do as our primary method? This is a guided meditation, so your intention is actually very easy in this. You just need to listen to my instructions. But for me, what I'm going to be doing is we are going to use the visual field to see yin awareness and yang attention more clearly. And we're going to try to find ways to recognize passive yin awareness and active yang attention. Now, if you ever find yourself distracted, distractions are going to happen naturally. It's just what the mind does. Drop that distraction and remember that intention. So before we let that intention go into just passive yin awareness, actively with attention, make a note to highlight it now with your yang attention, and then return to that if you ever find yourself distracted. Which brings me to step 3, release expectations. You have no idea what may happen in any sit as you progress in your practice, but holding any expectations can prevent you from the natural progression of your practice, because instead of experiencing what is, you're directing yourself towards what you expect. So we drop the expectations as an invitation for new and unexpected experiences. Open yourself up to whatever is happening in the present and release whatever you expect to hold in your future. Now, the motivation that we touched in step 1 may have faded a little bit into awareness. So we are going to check in with it with attention. We're going to activate it again by checking in with yang attention. So consciously direct your attention to the imprint of that feeling, that emotion that you touched in step 1. The imprint of that is still there, remaining in passive yin awareness. A part of you, without your attention, has been exchanging information with that feeling. But touch it again with attention. That motivation is important for step 4. Step 4 is diligence. We are invoking diligence. We want, during our mindfulness practice, to use this time for our mindfulness practice diligently. Anything you had going on later is still going to be there. Just be present here now with your practice. Check with that feeling from step 1 again, and recognize that diligence is what's going to put you on a more direct path to the goals of step 1. And that feels good, doesn't it? Be here now. Now, step 5, bring your attention to step 5. We're going to go over distractions. We want a plan for when distractions arise. What do you know could be taking you away from following your practice, the practice you laid out in step 2? What's been agitating you recently? Is it work, body pain, relationships? Any of these probable distractions don't require any sort of effort to appear. You just need to recognize they're likely to arrive. So know the face of your attackers. What do you think is going to be pulling you away from your practice? Now, when you recognize what the distractions are, we set the strong intention to follow this formula. Awareness is going to recognize when these distractions are present. You take joy in that recognition. Your system is doing what it intended to do. It's recognizing distraction. Don't be upset that there's a distraction. Just take joy that you recognized it and return to the intention set in step 2 to follow my instructions. So, formula, take joy in that you found the distraction, drop the distraction, come back to following my instructions. Step 6 is posture. Again, we're going to be using the visual field. So you want to be looking out either into the room or the window. And you want to feel like you are very supportive. So that means either shifting all the way back into your chair, or so that you feel supported, or moving up a little bit in the chair so that you can stack your spine to defy gravity. But the goal is with posture that if you were to release all of your muscles, you would still be upright and supported. So whatever you need to do that is your posture. And after the 6-step prep, we begin. So take in everything within your conscious experience. Your bodily sensations, smells, temperature, thoughts, everything in conscious awareness. And attention can go wherever it wants to go. It can rest wherever it wants to rest. It has the largest container of conscious awareness. Conscious awareness is expansive. Don't exclude anything from your experience. Leave yourself open to experiencing everything. Now, we're going to limit attention's playground to just the visual field. So bodily sensations, smells, temperature, everything that arises in conscious awareness can still arise. We're just not going to attend to it. We leave that in just a passive knowing, a yin passive knowing. Now, but we're not going to allow attention to investigate it. We're limiting attention's playground. So just bring your attention to play in the visual field. You can allow your eyes to go wherever they want, to investigate wherever they want. The focus of your eyes, where you move them, what you see most prominently in your visual field, that is your attention. Everything in the periphery of your focus is peripheral awareness. And take in all the visual field. Feel free to move your head if you would like to from side to side. Playground of the visual field is big, but we're limiting attention's playground to just the visual field. Now we're going to shrink attention's playground one step further. No longer move your head. Your head does not move. Your eyes can still move wherever they want, but your head stays still. Explore just the visual field in front of you. Again, attention can go wherever it wants, but just limit it to the visual field directly in front of you without moving your head. Notice how much more information you're receiving when your eyes focus on one object. Notice there's a part of your visual field that's more yang, more active. It moves. It's yang. It processes more. It's yang. Yang attention is active. It refines the data. Yin awareness is passive, but it presents a lot of data. There is a yin passive knowing of awareness's data, but no action is required to receive it. Now, we're going to limit attention's playground even further. Pick a spot directly in front of you and let your eyes rest on just that one spot. We're keeping attention on just that one spot. Everything else in your visual field is just arising in peripheral awareness. And we are intending to use conscious direction of attention to just one spot. Look closely at that spot. How detailed is it? How much information can you get from that one spot with your gaze? Keep your eyes resting on that spot, but keep yang attention active. Notice the fine details. Don't relax your gaze so that everything fades. Keep your focus on that spot. Are you still aware of everything else in the periphery of your visual field without attending to it? Or has your awareness collapsed? Has yang attention consumed the conscious resources of yin awareness so that you're not as conscious of the periphery? Don't move your eyes. Now stay focused on that one spot in front of you, the attention of your visual field. Have you noticed any impulses to move your attention to another spot in your visual field? Has the yin passive awareness flagged attention's response, calling it to go somewhere else to investigate? Attention is yang, movement is yang. When the mind overutilizes yang attention, it moves a lot. Let's see if we can stabilize it by shifting the system into utilizing more awareness. Now, keep your eyes on the spot you've chosen. We're going to leave attention resting there. And without moving your head or your eyes, raise your arms with your thumbs out in front of you. Attention hasn't moved. But in your peripheral awareness, you know that your thumbs are up in the air. There is a passive knowing. There's no analyzation required, no active yang attention required for that passive yin information presented from peripheral awareness. Keep your gaze, your attention at that spot in front of you, and move your arms slowly in opposite direction toward the edges of your visual field, slowly. Attention's not moving from that spot you've chosen. Awareness is still receiving information that the arms are moving. You're conscious of it, but attention is still in front of you. As you receive the information of the arms moving, how much information are you receiving from attention? How detailed is that spot in front of you? Is it the same as before we started this exercise? Are you noticing fewer details as resources shift towards awareness? As yin is consuming yang? Were there enough conscious resources to maintain the same level of processing and attention? Or have the scales shifted? And how much processing is occurring in peripheral awareness? Do you have details of the hairs on your thumbs without attending to them? Less processing, less activity in yin awareness. Now, leave your arms up just a little while longer on the edge of your visual field. Leave them in awareness. And let your visual field continue to receive information from your thumbs. We're checking in with that awareness to make sure that it's keeping information flowing from that part of your awareness. But attend a little more closely to what's going on in attention in front of you. Just don't let the information exchange from your thumbs end. Getting in all of the details from attention in front of you. Still receiving information from the awareness of your thumbs. Is attention more stable when you've continuously acknowledged that information from your thumbs and peripheral awareness? Were you still feeling pulled to investigate other things in your visual field? Or was yin able to anchor yang a little bit? Now go ahead and lower your arms and relax, but keep your attention on that spot you've chosen. Just let it rest there for a moment. Now, without moving your eyes, without moving your attention, how much information can you receive from whatever corner of your field of vision is to the left? Without moving your eyes. Now, without moving your head, let your attention, your eyes, move to that corner and investigate it. Actively process the information that it's receiving from the left of your visual field. With attention, hone in and analyze. Now bring your attention, your gaze, back to your original spot in front of you. And how much more prominent is the left corner of your vision and awareness compared to the right side of your visual field? How much more information are you receiving from the left and the right? Was the passive yin awareness strengthened by checking in with it with active yang attention? Are you receiving a little bit more details? Is there more knowing, passive knowing from awareness? Now, when you're ready, come back to the room and come back to the computer screen. All right. So that was, I still have a little bit more to share, but that was the bulk of what I wanted to share. And I'd like to have any questions that anyone has as to what I've presented so far. No questions? You guys have, I presented well? You've all got it? It's useful? No misunderstandings? No news is good news.
I have a,
Oh,
I have a question. Well, first of all,
yeah.
I thought that was great, and it was very clear and a nice framework. Basically, my question for you is, I think the example you did with the visual field, right, makes it very clear. And I guess the question is like, do you personally use this in your own TMI practice, like with the breath?
Yes. I do in terms of the concept of, yin, passive, yang, active. It's just a very convenient labeling system that I use in my practice to more easily differentiate. So when you're not using the visual fields, the visual field is great because we have a lot of experience with it. But once you're doing the meditation practice, you're not just investigating extrospective awareness, which everyone has cultivated to a certain degree, you're also investigating introspective awareness and metacognitive introspective awareness. So it does get a little bit more complicated in most meditative practices. But the model, from my experience, does hold up in terms of practical application, at least for me, which is why I really want to share it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it would. I was just curious if, and it seems like yes, you do apply this in your practice.
Yeah. But
Cool.
Sebastian?
Yeah, hi Jake. So it's I've got a question more about the yin yang and how you understand that. So I mean, it's a lot of years since it's a long time ago since I really was into like Tao Te Ching or that kind of Taoist approach. But what I have in mind is that it's a kind of dynamic thing. So the yin is kind of transforming into yang and yang into yin. So it's a kind of cyclical sort of transformation process that's happening. And that's kind of constantly dynamic. And I wondered if you detected something like that happening naturally in your meditation as well, that there's somehow a kind of transformation of attention and awareness happening in some way cyclically in your experience in your meditation.
Yes, and I addressed this in one of the previous slides, where yin turns into yang, yang turns into yin. So things first arise in yin awareness. It arises first as an object of awareness. And then yang, attention, selects a part from awareness. That object of awareness becomes an object of attention. Yin turns into yang. And then yang consumes yin. If you become so absorbed in what you're attending to, awareness, the conscious resources just collapse. So you've got yin transforming into yang, and it goes the other way too. After you've attended to something, yang, the object of attention, it is released and then returns back to an object of awareness. And I tried to point to this in the meditation that I just did with that last part of the corner. You attend to what's going on in the corner of your visual field. And then when you come back, the attentional properties of the left part of your visual field, you may have noticed had more of a knowing quality to them right after they were first released. That's that gradual transition of yang returning back to yin.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a kind of continuous coming out of background into foreground and going from foreground into background, that kind of cycle
They're
going.
working with each other,
Okay, yeah,
transforming
got it.
into each other. The trouble is with an untrained mind, they're not working harmoniously. You
Hmm.
know, one of the big goals for mindfulness practice is to have them working effectively in harmony together. So
Hmm.
what's happening in awareness is providing the greatest context it can to what's happening in attention. Everything becomes a little bit more stable, everything works more harmoniously, but that information exchange or that transformation between yin awareness and yang attention is always going to be happening,
Hmm.
and backwards from yang attention to yin awareness.
Got it.
On top of that, in terms of that transformation, you're using yang attention in the earlier stages of the mind illuminated to train, to cultivate awareness with the checking in, appreciating the aha moment. You're intentionally directing to what you want to happen so that it trains that awareness, that yin passivity, to become more effective. So that yang is then transforming into yin. And once you get a sort of stable balance, everything just starts to work more easily on its own. That all make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, brilliant. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robert?
Yeah. Can I just add? I think the way you just said. So, yeah, I really like the piece of the meditation of focus on the left part of the visual field, then come back and notice how you kind of just like put energy into that part of the space,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
Resources.
and I think it's like it was a great demonstration of the effect of checking in. Right? Like basically what you did is you checked in with that part of the visual space, but when you're checking in with awareness, you're kind of putting that yang energy into awareness, and then when you come back to the meditation object, it's like The energy's still there.
Exactly.
Um,
You're shifting the resources and then intending to keep those resources shifted, but it's done passively. So you
Yeah,
use the active yang
right.
attention. Yeah, I think we're speaking the same thing.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
clarifying? Yeah.
Yeah. That's really clear. All right, I gotta sign off, but that was great. Thanks. Really appreciated this. And
Okay, I do have one more model, but if you got to go, you got to go.
yeah, I gotta go. This is being recorded.
No problem. It is, yeah.
Okay, so maybe I could catch the rest of it afterwards, but I gotta pop
Yeah,
off now.
sure.
Yeah.
And then I see, thank you for coming, Robert.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much.
Okay, and I see there was some things going on in the chat. Whoop. Oh, okay. My screen went blank for a second. Can you guys still hear me? Yay, nay? Okay. So Denise said, I appreciate the 6 steps, specifically identifying your motivation and actively feeling it. Great. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Yeah, that the 6-step prep, and then I modified something called the 4-step transition. Those are basically the framework of the entire the Mind Illuminated practice. And Denise, I extended this offer to all of our class earlier. If you ever want help with any mindfulness practice you have, reach out. I'm offering my services free to our class. And then Catherine said, how long did you use the visual field before moving into an internal awareness? So in the earlier stages of TMI, we're often using extrospective awareness a little bit more heavily, just to build up a sense of awareness and to understand what awareness is. And then progressively through the stages of TMI, everything starts to shift to becoming more internal. But I was still using internal introspective awareness during this meditation. It just wasn't used as explicitly because we were working with something extrospective. But I was trying to point to an introspective awareness of what I was doing by posing some questions like, did you notice this yin was shifting into yang? Those kind of things. So awareness, internal awareness is always still working in some sense. But in the mindfulness practice, you cultivate it more until you can use it more heavily. So how long? It depends on how quickly you can progress. With a mindfulness practice, some people take right to it, some people take a little bit longer. What I love about the Mind Illuminated and why I teach it and why I use it is it can create progress to happen more quickly with a dedicated practice. The framework, the models that are shared, all of the practices are very direct and efficient. So you can progress pretty quickly when you use the Mind Illuminated. But in the earlier stages, you work with what you got. We use extrospective awareness a lot for that. Any other questions? All right, I will jump right into the last little bit I want to share. Now, this last model that I want to share is a little bit more advanced, but it should still be relatively accessible. But if you have a TMI background, everything should make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to do my best to explain as best as I can some of the models in TMI briefly. So in TMI, the mind system model, and the mind system model itself was originally from the Yogacara school of Buddhism, and then the Mind Illuminated adapted that model and added a little bit more modern understanding to it. But what it is the mind itself is not one thing. It's a collection of a lot of various unconscious processes that work and exchange information with each other within consciousness. And there are a lot of subminds, but Just to go over a few of them, you've got all of the sense organs, auditory, visual, somatosensory. Then you've got the thinking mind, emotional mind, hearing mind. And all of these different subminds have their own objectives and goals, and they're working towards them on their own. So they're they're called subminds. So they're a smaller part of the mind itself. What the conscious mind is, and on the left, you'll see that they're feeding into the conscious mind. What the conscious mind is just a place of information exchange to occur between all of those subminds. In the mind illuminated, it's likened to a boardroom. So to the right, I don't have a label for it, but to the right, you can see this is basically a boardroom table. And you have all of these different departments. And I really like how they're phrased as department, because, within departments, there are the head of the department, and then there are people working underneath. So the heads of the department come and sit at the table and then exchange information. And that information exchange is what we experience as the conscious mind. So each of these subminds aggregates, synthesizes, frames a lot of data, very processed, into consciousness, where all of that data can intermingle and be projected into what we experience. Now, remember how I said I really liked how in the boardroom on the right, everything is described as a department? There are things going on within that department. And this is a diagram I took from page 472 of the Mind Illuminated. Every submind has its own consciousness-like mind as well. So every submind has its own subminds that then are projected into its own consciousness-like space before it projects into the higher level of consciousness. And you can see that it goes down 4 times. This is actually infinite. This is more or less a fractal. So every submind has its own consciousness-like space with its own subminds. And that data synchronization, that data processing is what occurs in the conscious mind. And then that is projected up into the next level of consciousness. Now, with applying yin-yang theory to this, I mentioned much earlier the infinite divisibility of yin and yang. Awareness and attention can be considered polarity, yin and yang. Now, anytime you divide something, you like say we were to divide that section of yin, you have the yinest portion of the yin and the yangest portion of the yin. And you can just keep dividing like that. Infinite divisibility. Just like in the subminds, each of those subminds has their own submind, their own conscious experience, their own polarity, their own attention and awareness working together. And it just keeps going on and on like that for infinity. What that looks like in 2 directions as a yin-yang is what you're going to see right here on your right. The dot of the yin and the dot of the yang then are further divided, and it goes ad infinitum. It is a little bit hard to digest when you are looking in both directions like this. So if we look at it in just one direction, and in this model, we're going to be looking downwards. So what is within our subminds. This is a video from my favorite physicist, Nassim Haramein. He has made incredible contributions to the unified field theory. And what he presents here just briefly is a really wonderful understanding of how to mathematically and theoretically, I guess, but also mathematically, give validation to how a process like this can actually occur. But again, models are oversimplifications, but this does give a little bit more of a reasonable understanding to how that is possible. And before we continue, keep in mind, yin and yang is polarity. Attention and awareness are polarities of conscious experience.
Hey, Jake, I don't think you're sharing the audio of the video.
I'm not sharing the audio.
No, sir.
It's coming up on my screen. How do I do that? Oh,
I think it's an option you have to click when you share.
okay. Advanced sharing options.
You might have to stop the share and then redo it, and then the option appears, I think, when you start to share.
Okay. Stop share, share sound. You guys, great. Optimize for video sharing. Okay, I'm clicking all the options. So 18. All right, there's good enough.
Circle, and it encloses a certain volume, right? It could be a sphere in the space, so don't reduce it necessarily to a circle. And then inside it, we're going to put an equilateral triangle. Now, that triangle in a sphere could be a tetrahedron. Everybody knows what a tetrahedron is? It's one of these, right? And we can polarize that tetrahedron because the universe has spin. Things spins in the universe, and when they spin, there's polarity. So it's okay, you can polarize it. So you can polarize the triangle. And interestingly, right away, you got an ancient symbol that you can find in many, many different cultures all around the world, although it's best known by the Jewish culture as the Star of David or the Star of Zion. Well, if you look carefully, you find that as soon as I polarized the first tetrahedron, I created new boundaries that have the exact same geometry that I started with. Except these boundaries are one step smaller, right? They're one gradient or one iteration smaller. Well, what's important to remember here that each of these boundaries define a very specific center, right? Like this boundary here, this is its center, and this is its center, and all of the centers are all different from all other centers. That means that each of the boundary, although they're part of a similar geometry that is interactive with each other, meaning one cannot exist without the other ones, they all have their own very specific coordinates in space-time, and they observe the rest of the fractal structure from its own very specific point of view that no other boundary in the system has. You all following this? It's an important point. Now, you can polarize those, and you'll get smaller boundaries again. And again, each one is a very individual boundary. And you polarize those, you get smaller ones, and you can go to infinity doing that. So if I had this program running on my computer, it could keep zooming in and making more boundary and zooming in and making more boundaries, and it would go to infinity. Like, as long as the computer was running, it would keep going. However, I would never, ever, ever, ever escape or exceed the first boundary I've made for myself. So within the context of a finite space, I've embedded infinite amount of information, infinite amount of divisions. That means that if this is true, and if it's geometrically true, and if it's mathematically true, then it most likely is true, you could take the boundary of any of your atoms, or the boundary of your cells, and divide them and divide them and divide it to infinity, meaning that you have an infinite amount of information, an infinite amount of divisions within yourself. So all of a sudden, you're starting to have a mechanical and mathematical understanding of the infinite nature of your existence. It's no longer just a metaphysical concept. It's no longer a belief or a dogma. It's actually a mathematical equation. Does that make sense to you? So this is crucial, because without it, you're still in dogma.
So that is looking at it going in one direction downward. What about if we were to look at it going outward, the larger outward picture? In the Mind Illuminated, it's likened to how organizations are formed, companies are formed, corporations are formed, local governments are formed, state governments are formed, countries are formed. Within any of those divisions, you have individual components working. However, we still view them as a single entity. These corporations, these governments, any kind of organization, all of the individuals, the individual subminds, are feeding in, and oftentimes in boardrooms, just like that analogy of consciousness being a boardroom, often in boardrooms to create that single entity, that larger entity. But for a visual understanding of this, everything I've shared so far has been in 2 dimensions, but our experience is in, or at least our physical experience is in a 3-dimensional reality. So I need to modify the yin-yang out of 2 dimensions and into 3. Oh, I need to go to the next slide. Here we go. So there you can see that it's very easy to see that a yin-yang is actually a 2-dimensional representation of a torus, a donut shape. And for those of you in my, for Denise and Catherine, when we're doing Qigong in school and we're doing that enter the void at various parts of Qigong, we're actually working with that toroidal structure. Now, need to go to the next slide. In the Mind Illuminated, and the Mind Illuminated is not an energetics book, but they do have a brief view of the energetic body. And you can see that at the top of the head and the bottom of the head, and then the circle around it, it's got a toroidal shape. And energetic practitioners will often describe the human bioelectric field as a torus. Over in the top right, that's how it's often described. In the middle, you've got a toroid shape where yin is becoming yang, yang is becoming yin. And this is flowing in both directions at all times. So the human energy field can be thought of as a torus, but the toroidal shape, that toroidal influence, is actually seen at every scale in reality. You see a tree over into the left, you've got tornadoes, you've got the apple, all the way up to planets, all the Earth's magnetic fields, which, by the way, also has polarity, all the way to the structure of galaxies, and taking it further, the structure of the universe. If you were to go the other direction and you look at the shape of a blood cell, it's in the shape of a torus. This shape, this pattern, this field is influencing nearly everything that we observe. And that brings you to, whoop, nope, need to go backward. Had a thing, lost it. How do I get back to it? If you were to take that energetic field of the torus as simplify it down to just a circle, a two-dimensional circle, and we ignore the polarities, you get a way to interpret the flower of life as a representation of interconnectedness, where all of our fields, our energetic fields, are fields of awareness, whether or not we're conscious of that field, intermingle and interconnect, and we create this space of shared receptivity and shared awareness. So you've got one circle, two circle, and there we go. And that is all I had to share. How do I get back to seeing you guys?
Stop share.
Stop share. It's my first time as a host. Where is the button for stop share? Ah, there it is. One big red button. Okay. So that's all I had to share. Any questions about the later parts of that model?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say I thought that was really fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I really like the flower of life imagery. I'd like to look at that more closely. I also loved how you explain how yin feeds yang as far as attention. I thought it was really great, Jake. Good job.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. Can you hear me, Jake?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I dropped my internet earlier and now I'm on my phone and it's difficult for me to maneuver around here. But regardless of all that, I thought that the yin and yang, yin and yang model just appears to just mesh with awareness and attention really well. It's just a different way of looking at it. And some of the terms, you know, the nurturing, the stillness, singular, foreground, background, those sorts of things are really useful, I guess, in just sort of and being more descriptive ways of looking at what's going on with attention awareness as it's outlined by Yates. So yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting and the exercises were wonderful too. So good job and thanks a lot for presenting today. I appreciate it.
Oh, and thank you. And I'm glad that you found it useful. You know, I've
Yeah.
got all these things going on in my head and they're useful to me, but can I share them to make them useful to others? So it's great to receive that feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, cool. I missed the beginning, Jake, but so maybe I missed a little bit of the context, but I really enjoyed it. I really liked just expanding everywhere at the end with those great diagrams. That was cool. So I always
Yeah.
kind of expand things, expand concepts and stuff. That's always great fun to do. But there was some I think really useful practical things in there as well. And yeah, like John, I think it's you know, if you understand, especially for people, you know, who are familiar with the yin yang concept or maybe are even working or studying like yourself, then I think it's super useful to be able to explain attention and awareness in those terms. That'll really help people just really easily to get into it, I would think.
Yeah. And, you know, with teaching, my field of profession is going to be with Chinese medicine. So I could
Right.
easily see myself finding a niche in that market and being able to guide
Yeah.
people with models they're familiar with. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe you want to go to China one day as well, like
I'll go
Shenzhen.
tomorrow. You got, I went to China, right?
I knew you
I
were
just don't
in
really.
Thailand, but I
Yeah.
didn't know you were in
Right
China.
before the pandemic, I was actually in China studying Tai Chi and Qigong. Then
Oh,
the pandemic happened, but
right.
here we are
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, glad you got out safely.
Yeah.
You didn't bring the virus with you, though, did you, Jake?
Funny story. On January 2nd of 2020, I flew out of Wuhan Airport to go to Thailand for a vacation from China.
No.
And then a week later, COVID hit the news. So
No.
I was fine.
Okay.
But I find myself at the epicenter of a lot of natural disasters somehow.
As long as you keep
Truest
finding
coincidence.
yourself and don't find your demise.
Working on it, yeah.
That's cool. Thank you very much, Jake. Really
Thank you.
enjoyed.
Yeah, Chuladasa was a bit, considered himself a polymath in this spiritual pursuit, and so he would really appreciate this. What you did here, the clarity, the pragmatic approach, and everything. I appreciated it a lot. It showed a really wonderful understanding of TMI to bridge the gap with another system that takes understanding, and you showed that. I'm really stoked. I can't wait to see what else you have in the future, Jake.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited for the future too.
Haircut's cool, Jake.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. New year, new Jake, so got it cut.
Yeah, good. All right. I need to drop out then, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Good to see
Thanks
you.
a
And
lot.
thank you,
Nice to see you,
Catherine.
Eric.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate all of you guys coming. It's
Yeah.
nice to be able to share this stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
my pleasure.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care, guys. Catherine, I'll be seeing you on Friday.